All right, what up, gamers? So yes, it is time to do another exotic weapons tier list. Now that Season of the Deep has been out for a few weeks now, I feel comfortable making this list about how I feel about all the new exotic weapon changes. Maybe not every single individual one, although when it comes to things like the new catalysts that were added, the new weapons that were added, I feel pretty comfortable re-ranking all of the weapons on this list, and, we're just going to jump right into it. Before I get started, though, I do want to say I do not own the Navigator, nor is the Navigator on this list, so, I can't really give an opinion on the Navigator. It looks really fun. I just, bad RNG, I don't have it. Some people might say maybe I should have waited until I got it, but, that could literally be months. With those exotic drop rates being that bad, it could literally be months until I get that weapon, so I'm just going to rank all of them based on how I feel now. We're going to jump right into it. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe. I appreciate all of you, and let's just jump right into it. So, starting off with Cerberus +1. I am honestly feeling, I don't want to put it in F tier, although I've put it in F tier in my past couple tier lists. I'm feeling like a C tier right now. I reused Cerberus, and it actually is pretty nice. They buffed it a little bit, I think. I forget exactly what they did to Cerberus, but it is a little bit more fun to use now. It's kind of one of those weapons that you either love it or hate it, and personally, I don't love it, but I don't actually hate its guts anymore. I used to, like last season, I was not a fan of the Cerberus. I just never used it. But yeah, moving on from that, Malfeasance. Now, this is the interesting one because I, for a while, was saying Malfeasance is bad. There's better builds in the game. You can only really use it on a Hunter with Lucky Pants. But I gotta say, right now, Malfeasance is S tier. Malfeasance is so good. I'm also gonna full screen this real quick. Malfeasance is S tier for sure. Malfeasance is so good right now, especially with Vorpal. Once you get the Catalyst complete, it is so good. This is a PvE list, by the way. I probably should have said that. It'll probably be in the title. Moving on from that, we have the last word. The last word for PvE is an absolute F tier. The last word needs some love, man. I never thought I'd say that. It was one of those guns that always got touched every other season, but now it feels like it hasn't been touched in forever, and it's just really bad for both PvP and PvE, in my opinion. But this is a PvE list. Lord of Wolves, also bad. Why would you use Lord of Wolves in PvE? It's just bad. Teraba is actually pretty decent. I'm going to put it in B tier. Teraba is actually really good for both PvE and PvP. Once again, PvE list, but Teraba is actually not a bad option if you did want to use just a fun SMG, either that or Huckleberry, although Teraba is a good solar option. It's unfortunate we don't have any solar mods this season. Maybe in a season where we have more solar mods, Teraba would actually be like S tier, but I'll just put it in B for now. Monte Carlo, with the changes they made to Monte Carlo, or I guess buffs I should say, I would put it in like B tier right now. I don't really think it's too good. I know there are some good melee builds with it in the game right now, and a lot of people do have a special spot in their heart for, Monte Carlo, although I don't like Monte Carlo. I've never have, I'm sorry if it's your favorite exotic, I just don't like it. We have the Suros Regime. Suros Regime kind of falls under the same thing, although it's kind of a C tier in my opinion. Suros for PvE, it's just no practical application for it in PvE. It doesn't really make any sense to run it. It's just kind of one of those guns that's like PvP centric, so there's no real reason to use it in any PvE activity unless you just like using the gun. It's fine, it's just not very good. Witherhoard's still an S tier, even with the nerfs they made to it with Lightfall. Witherhoard's still dominant for pretty much everything. I know there are some better options, and you don't really use Witherhoard for every single boss fight, but just for sustained DPS on bosses, for clearing out ads, even in PvP. Once again, PvE list, but even in PvP, Witherhoard is just really good. Vigilance Wing. I have a special spot in my heart for Vigilance Wing. I'm actually going to put it in A tier. I love using this thing. The health regen on it is really nice. Vigilance Wing is just a really nice feeling pulse rifle. If you just want to use an exotic pulse rifle in PvE, Vigilance Wing is not a bad option. It's not really good for any particular thing, although it is just a lot of fun to use, and I actually do run it in PvE sometimes. So I'm going to put that in A tier. We have Sturm. Sturm kind of falls into the same thing, although I kind of just want to put it in F tier. I feel like there's no reason to run Sturm. I mean, you're going to run 2 primary weapons in PvE, not really, unless you're doing GMs, but I mean, GMs aren't out yet, so you can't really do that. Sturm kind of serves zero purpose in PvE. Trinity Ghoul is still S tier. I love Trinity Ghoul. I would put it in A tier. No, they buffed it a little bit. Yeah, Trinity Ghoul is really good. Sweet Business is probably just a C tier for me. I don't ever really use this thing. I know some people like it, special place in their heart for it. It's just not really good at any particular thing, except you run like Actium War Rigs and you just slay out enemies. I guess that's cool and that's fine. There are better things in the game to run. I will put Monte Carlo and Teraba over Sweet Business. I feel like Sweet Business is a solid C tier in my opinion. Ace of Spades, I would put it in a solid A tier. I mean, Ace of Spades is just a good hand cannon with Firefly. It's really just that. It has a large mag, it's a 140, and it's a ton of fun to use, has a ton of ornaments. I love Ace of Spades for PvE. I don't use it too often, but when I do, it's just for regular normal PvE activities. I do enjoy Ace of Spades. We have Devil's Ruin, kind of more of a PvP exotic than PvE. I have seen some people run it in PvE, but I gotta be honest, it's probably a C tier for me. Borealis is probably an F tier. With adaptive munitions in the game, I feel like there's absolutely no reason to run something like Borealis or Hardlight, just my opinion. We have no sniper mods this season either, so, you know, you can't really stun champions with or anything, unless, did they add a champion mod to it? I forget. I think they also changed this weapon a little bit. I honestly haven't really used it too recently, and I'd have to go back and look, but from what I remember and from what I've used it for, I don't like this exotic at all. We have Hawkmoon. Hawkmoon, I will honestly put in B tier. It's a little bit better than some of the things in C tier, although, you know, Paracausal Shot is good for one-shotting, like, you know, low tier yellow bars and stuff like that. Hawkmoon's pretty decent. It's not great. It's not bad. Solid B tier. Ariana's Vow. Ariana's Vow is good for soloing contents, especially like Nezarec and stuff like that. I'm going to put Ariana's in A tier. I don't think it's meta. I think it's just one of those meta picks that the speedrunners and stuff use. So I don't really think it's actually meta, but you know what I mean. DMT is a solid B tier. I always love running DMT. It's just a fun weapon to use in PvE, and it's good. It's a scout rifle. Hip fire with it, whatever. It hasn't been dominant in either PvE or PvP, but, you know, it's still really good. Take a drink of my Red Bull here. I'm wired. Wishender. Wishender is definitely going to go in the S tier. I love Wishender so much. Crimson. Same thing with Vigilant Swing, kind of. I'm going to put that in A tier. Fourth Horseman, you guys know how I feel about Fourth Horseman. Absolutely love Fourth Horseman. That's simply going in S tier. We have Lumina. Lumina is definitely solid for things like bosses and, you know, just boss phases in general, because you can give that 35% or 30% damage buff, something like that. I forget what it's called, or I forget what it is exactly, but it's definitely going to go in A tier. I don't think it's meta. It's kind of an underrated pick, but it is pretty good. We have Arbalist. Arbalist is definitely going to go in the S tier. I mean, especially this season, because you can one-shot the shields off of the bosses in the new dungeon. That's amazing. I love Arbalist for that. Fighting Lion, F tier. Hate that thing. Thorn, same thing. I mean, you know, I'll put Thorn in C tier. Thorn's actually probably better than anything in F tier, so, you know, I have to put it in C tier. The damage over time, especially if you run something like Necrotic Grips, it can actually be pretty good, and you can, like, wipe out ads, but, you know, it's nothing special. Bastion, I absolutely hate this thing. I know it can stun unstops, but I'm going to put it in F tier. I hate Bastion so much. Outbreak Prime, definitely going to go in A tier. Divinity, still S tier. Probably Divinity will always be in S tier. That's one of those exotics that's probably never going to change unless they completely change the exotic, so, you know, that stays in S tier for me. Worldline 0. With the Worldline changes, it actually gets C tier for me. I did try Worldline because that was one of the things I was excited to see with the changes, and, you know, Worldline is actually pretty good now. It's not great or anything. It's like a C tier, but it's not like trash anymore. You can actually use it as a sword if you wanted to. Risk Runner, especially with all the seasonal mods now, definitely an A tier. I don't think it's S tier. You know, maybe when GMs come out, we'll have to see if anything changes, because I know Risk Runner can be like one of the best weapons to run into Grandmaster Nightfall to just wipe out all those tough ads. So, you know, Risk Runner could be pretty good. We have one of the Void, the Titan exotic glaive from the Witch Queen. That's going to go in F tier. I think all of the exotic glaives are trash, besides like Winterbite and Vexcalibur. I think they're all bad. We do also have Hardlight. Hardlight's going to go in F tier for sure. We have Deathbringer. For both PvE and PvP, I think it's a solid B tier. Deathbringer is actually pretty fun to use. It's not the greatest rocket launcher in the world, but it is a lot of fun, so I do enjoy it. We have Bad Juju. Bad Juju this season, definitely S tier. If you guys have not tried Bad Juju out, go try it. It's really, really good. I don't use it too often, but I know how strong it is, and I know it's definitely a meta pick, but it's definitely one of those underrated meta picks, for sure, but it is definitely meta. Traveler's Chosen. Traveler's Chosen, there's no real practical like application for it in PvE. I'm going to put it in C tier because I don't think it's trash. I just think, you know, it's not really, it should never be your first choice during a PvE. PvP is a different story, although PvE list, Traveler's Chosen in PvE is not amazing. It's good, it's not amazing though, so it just gets a C tier. I don't think it's a B either, if I'm being honest. Lay Monarch. Lay Monarch can stun, I believe, what is it, Overload or Unstop? I forget, but it can stun champions, and that poison spread is really, really good. I'm going to put that in B. I don't think it's an A tier, although I do like Lay Monarch. It's more for PvP, but you can use it in PvE effectively, so I will put it in B tier. Winterbite. With the nerf to Winterbite, it's not S tier, but I think it's still A tier. I think Winterbite is still really, really good, especially with a strong glaive build. You know, Winterbite can really, really shine in some activities for sure. Vex Mythoclast, kind of just a fun exotic to run. It's pretty good. I'll put it in B. Haven't used it very recently, but I don't think they touched it really at all. So, you know, Becksmith class kind of just stays the same for me in B tier. We have the new exotic, Centrifuge. I had to pull up the name here on my second monitor because I forgot the name of it. Centrifuge. Centrifuge is actually really, really strong. I'd say right now it is definitely meta for sure. I love using this thing. I just got the catalyst unlocked and I've been using it a ton. It is a lot of fun. And I actually really like Centrifuge. I'm wondering if that'll change with the arc mods being taken out of the game next season, but we'll have to wait and see. But as of right now, it's definitely a meta pick. Deterministic Chaos last season, I loved it. This season, not really feeling it. I don't think it's trash, but it's going to get C tier for me. Collective Obligation, kind of the same, but I think Collective kind of stands on its own a little bit with some of the Void mods we have. So I'm going to put that actually in A, because the Void debuff mods we do have this season can still work with Collective, and it is still pretty good. It's just not as good as last season. Last season, it was definitely a meta pick. This season, not so much. We have Edge of Concurrence. This is the Hunter exotic glaive. This thing gets an F tier. That thing's garbage. We have the Conditional Finality. You guys already know that's an S tier for me. We have the bow from last season. I always forget the name of this. The Verglass something. I think that's what it's called. Apologies for not remembering the name, but this is the seasonal pass exotic from last season of Defiance. I am going to put this in. This is a weird one because it's actually like pretty good, although it was buggy for a while. I'm probably just going to give it a solid B just so I don't ruffle any feathers with anybody. I feel like B is a solid middle ground because I actually enjoyed using it last season, but this season I haven't really touched it like at all, and they didn't change anything with it. The only thing that I could think of is maybe they fixed the bug, so I have to go back and revisit that. But I remember liking it. I thought it was good. Cloud Strike, especially this season, is definitely S tier for both PvE and PvP. You know why in PvE or PvP, and it's also really good for boss DPS in PvE. It's a lot of saying that a lot. I apologize. We have Graviton Lance. Graviton Lance for both PvE and PvP is a solid A tier. I don't think it's meta, even with the changes making it a 300 RPM and making that first shot do more damage. In PvP, it's meta for PvP. But in PvE, it's fine. With some of the Void mods we have this season, it's okay. But it's not meta at all. Lorenz Driver is going to get a solid B tier for me. Once again, Void mods actually make this thing really good, although, it's just solid. It's not really great, or it's not really meta. Tommy's Matchbook. Tommy's Matchbook is actually really solid this season. I was a big hater of Tommy's Matchbook, but this season is actually pretty darn good. You don't die as much with it. And I know it's probably just because I'm bad, and that's why I hated Tommy's Matchbook. But I actually do enjoy using it. I don't think it's meta, and I don't think it's A tier. I think it's a solid B tier as of this season. Next season could be completely different. Who knows? Dead Messenger. I love this thing for being a wave frame, although I really want this thing to be better. I feel like it's struggling. I feel like Dead Messenger is just not as good as it should be. It does fall into the same thing as Borealis and Hardlight, although I just feel like Dead Messenger should be better. I feel like it should be like super strong, but it's just not. I want it to be though, and I actually really do love this thing. I'm going to put it in B tier. I think it could be a lot better. Bungie definitely needs to buff it. It could definitely be a meta weapon, although it's just not where it needs to be. Delicate Tomb. Delicate Tomb this season is an A tier for sure. No Time to Explain is definitely for PvE a C tier. Huckleberry, love this thing. It's going to get an A tier for me. It's better than Teraba in my opinion, especially with the Catalyst. The Jade Rabbit. Jade Rabbit's good in PvP this season. I haven't really tested too much in PvE, although I can only imagine. Scout Rifles are not the best in PvE at the moment, and I'm kind of just going to put that in C tier. I don't want to say it's trash because I don't know if it's like that trash, although I just can't imagine it being anything too special. The only thing I'll put in trash is if I actually think it's trash. We're going to take another sip of Red Bull. Talking a lot this video. Alrighty, let's get into it. Cold Heart. Cold Heart this season, phenomenal, A tier. Sunshot. I love Sunshot. I'm biased for this one. Definitely going to get shit for this in the comments, but I love Sunshot so much. I'm going to put Sunshot in A tier. Absolutely love that weapon. It's one of my favorite exotics in Destiny 2 as a whole for both PvE and PvP. Just amazing. I know it's not a solar season with mods or anything like that, but I just absolutely love Sunshot. It's just great. Salvation's Grip. Even with the changes, this thing is still garbage. Same thing with Darcy too. And the Final Warning Strand Sidearm from last season. A lot of people gave me shit about this in the comments, saying that this gun is amazing and I'm just not using it correctly. I've tried to use this thing. I've tried to like it. I wanted to like it. I was excited about it when it came out. I really wanted to use this. I think it was the first Strand exotic that we had, besides Quicksilver Storm. But from Lightfall, it was the first Strand exotic, and I was like, I really want to like this thing, but I just don't. I honestly think this weapon's trash, and I know I'm gonna get shit for that. Once again, I know I am. I just don't like it. I don't like it. I just don't. Chaperone for PvE is probably a solid B tier. No, I'll put it in C tier. Mainly because I haven't tested it out. I tested it out last season. I really liked it. I don't think they made any significant changes to Chaperone in terms of PvE, but Chaperone is just fine. but it's not like fine enough to put in B tier. You know what I mean? There's no real reason to run Chaperone unless you're just having fun. Once again, Forerunner for PvE. The ammo economy in PvE is better than PvP. Well, actually, no, the ammo economy for Forerunner in PvP is good. It could be better, but it's good. In PvE, though, it's fine. It could be better. I think I worded that incorrectly when I just said that. I'm going to put Forerunner in a B tier just because of the ammo economy. I know I just said it was really good, but I was talking about PvP. I just messed up my words there. For PvE specifically, Forerunner is just fine. It's not really good or it's not meta or anything like that. It's just fine, even with the Catalyst. Legend of Acreus this season is definitely an S tier. If you have the Catalyst for Legend of Acreus, you can one-phase things like Riven. You can one-phase a ton of bosses with Legend of Acreus. It's really solid. Rat King. I know a lot of people love Rat King, but I hate this thing. And to get the full effect, you have to run it with 5 other people. I just don't like it. Whisper of the Worm, same thing. I don't like Whisper of the Worm. I know it can be really good, but with the Supremacy now being craftable and probably being the highest DPS weapon of the game, there is literally zero reason to run Whisper of the Worm unless you just don't have a Supremacy. That's literally the only reason. Mida definitely gets an F tier. Galahorn, absolute S tier. Staple in every raid group, 100%, especially when you're using rockets. I mean, I guess, if you're using linears, it's not stable, but if you're using any encounter with a rocket, yeah, what I'm trying to say. It's a staple for sure. Grand Overture, I hate this thing, even with the Arc mods this season, and I know it melts. With the Arc mods, I will put it in C. It is fine. I understand that it melts things with the charge up shot, but I just cannot stand Grand Overture. I won't put it in trash because I don't think it's actually trash. But I just cannot stand to use Grand Overture. I just don't like that weapon. Heart Shadow, I love for Void Hunter. I don't really use it for anything else. It is a fun exotic to use. I don't think it's trash, although I don't think it's anything really special. Heart Shadow gets a C tier. Same thing with Hierarchy of Needs. I understand it can be really good, but it's kind of just a really stupid gimmick exotic that's only good for some PvE activities. It's not that great. I'm going to put it in C tier. Wave Splitter. Last season, this thing was S tier. This season, it's probably B tier. I kind of want to put it in A, but Wave Splitter is fine. It's really good. It's just not, meta or really strong or anything like that. And then we have the Solar Glaive. I believe this is for the Warlock. This thing gets an absolute F tier. This thing's garbage. We have Merciless. Merciless is actually really strong. I made a video a while ago saying I was wrong about Merciless. Merciless definitely gets a solid A tier. No longer meta, in my opinion. Really high, really nice DPS, though. Have to put it in A tier for sure. Prometheus Lens. What would I do about Prometheus Lens? I got to be honest, I haven't used Prometheus Lens yet, so I'm going to probably put it where I put it in my last one, where I'm just going to put it in B tier. It's fine. I just haven't used it recently. I kind of forgot about Prometheus Lens, if I'm being honest. Let me know down in the comments if they made any changes to it. But yeah, I should probably test out Prometheus Lens. I think that's one of the only exotics that I haven't used this season yet. So we have the Lament. Lament is definitely a solid S tier for things like the dungeon. Current activities in the game it is actually really good for, so I'd have to put it in S tier. I love Lament. Lament's really good at two-phasing the first boss in the new dungeon. Very good. Manticore. Manticore gets an F tier. Take another sip of Red Bull. I'm talking a lot. Thought I heard something. Jeez. We have Black Talon. Black Talon for PvE. F tier for sure. Parasite. Parasite we're going to put in... I'm torn between S and A. I kind of want to put it in A tier. Just kind of think it's meta anymore. I know it's good for some things, kind of like Atrax and, bosses that have really, really short DPS phases that you can only really get 1 or 2 shots on. So it's really good for that. Revision 0. I hate this thing. I know I got shit in my last tier list for putting it in a low tier. I'm going to put it in F. I hate that thing. Prospector. Prospector this season is a solid A tier for sure. It's not the greatest. It's not the worst. But it's definitely really strong, especially with the mods that we have. It is really good. We have, what is this? The Colony. The Colony. Jesus Christ, I hate this thing so much. For PvE especially, it serves literally no purpose. I just hate that thing so much. Tiku's Divination. Tiku's is actually really solid. I'm going to put it in B tier. Ruinous Effigy, same thing, B tier. Heir Apparent. This season, it's actually, I'd have to test it out again, but I can only imagine with some of the mods that we have that this thing's probably crazy. The amount of ionic traces you can probably make with Heir Apparent is probably insane. I'm going to put in A tier based off our prediction. I haven't used that one either. I used it last season for Guardian games, but this season I have not. Symmetry. Symmetry is also really strong. I'm going to put that in A tier. Don't think it's meta. Skyburner's Oath, definitely going to go in F tier. Osteo, automatic S tier for me. Love Osteo Striga. That thing's amazing. Polaris Lance is really strong this season, and it was really strong last season, but even with the changes they made, this thing is really good. I'm going to put it in A tier for sure. Thunderlord, love my boy Thunderlord, S tier, S tier, S tier all the way. Absolutely love Thunderlord. Thunderlord's one of my favorite exotics in the game. Touch of Malice, Touch of Malice. This thing's like, it's trying to be Tommy's Matchbook, but it's just not as good. Tommy's Matchbook with the changes are better. Touch of Malice is just not. I feel like Touch of Malice, I want to put it in F tier, but I'll put it in C tier because I have some love for this weapon. I just can't put it in F tier personally. Trespasser, though. Trespasser is going to get an A tier for me. I love using Trespasser. Personal pick, not, anything special about Trespasser, really. It's just kind of, it's just, I like using it. That's pretty much it. That's the only reason. That's what I'm trying to say. Truth is bad. Truth has always been bad, especially for PvE. There are way better rockets, legendary and exotic, than Truth. So yeah, don't use Truth. Queen Breaker, I'd be interested to see Queen Breaker now, although still, I don't think it's probably very good. I'm going to put it in F just based off of a hunch. We have Vex Caliber. Vex Caliber is definitely going to get a solid B tier for me. I like using Vex Caliber, especially when you craft it. Very, very good. Cryosthesia, I think for PvE, this thing sucks, no matter what stasis build it is. I remember I used to like Cryosthesia quite a bit, but, I just recently, not really. I don't like the thing. We have Izanagi's, gets an instant S tier for sure. Telesto, right now, Telesto gets a C tier. It's almost trash. You see nobody running Telesto, and there's a reason for that. Xenophage is a solid A tier for me. Eyes of Tomorrow. For Gambit, it gets an S tier. For everything else, Eyes of Tomorrow sucks. We have Sleeper Stimulant. Sleeper Stimulant is probably an S tier this season for how much you can use it, especially on the final boss of the new dungeon. Very, very strong. Wordcliff Coil is going to get a C for me. Unless, there's a bug in the game that makes it do like 1,300 times damage. It's never going to be good. Unless they make some actual, like, real damage changes to this weapon, which I think they might in the next couple seasons. They might rework it like a little bit. I feel like without, there being a broken, busted boss that we can, 100 times our multiplier damage on with Wordcliff Coil, I feel like it's just always going to be bad. That's just my opinion. But Leviathan's Breath is a solid A tier for me. We're getting here to the end, guys. Jesus. Anarchy is a solid S tier for me, especially this season. You can farm Cali with it. It's very, very strong for Cali, or it bugs Cali out, so it's like a staple for that. And I think Anarchy is just really good this season in general, but especially for that. Jotun for PvE is a B tier for me. Tractor Cannon, absolute S tier, especially recently on bosses that we're closer to. Tractor Cannon is really, really strong, and I highly recommend you guys use it, especially in like a raid group. Two-Tailed Fox was really good last season. This season, it's probably a B tier. It's fine to use, but it's not like the king anymore. It wasn't ever really the king last season, but it was like one of the top options. It's just this season, not so much. 1,000 Voices. 1,000 Voices is probably... I want to put it in S. I really do, but I can't. I have to put it in A tier. It just gets a solid A tier for me. Duality for PvE. It's not good. And Quicksilver Storm. A lot of people love Quicksilver Storm, and a lot of people would put it in meta. I don't want to put this in meta because I don't like this gun. I'm really not a fan of Quicksilver, but I know how strong it is. I will confidently put it in A, and there it is, boys and girls. Yeah, so that's the exotic tier list for Season of the Deep. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know down in the comments if you guys think I'm an idiot. If you, think I put your favorite exotic in F tier or C tier, I'm sorry. Once again, these are just my opinions and how I'm feeling, and I understand I haven't used every single exotic, but you gotta understand there's so many in the game now. I can't spend like a day with each of these exotics, or else I'd make one tier list a year and you wouldn't like hear my actual thoughts about them. But this is what I'm feeling for Season of the Deep so far. Obviously, we have the new Stasis Scout coming out, I think next week. I don't really know exactly when that new exotic's coming out, and I don't have the Navigator, which is the strand trace rifle from the dungeon. When I get that, I'll probably make a video on it or something like that. But for right now, I've heard it's very good. I would probably put it in A tier. I don't think it's meta, and I don't think anybody's really saying it's meta. It's just really strong. I probably just put that in A tier, but I don't have it, so I can't really give an opinion on it. That is the only exotic I am currently missing. So, but yeah, guys, hope you enjoyed. Make sure to like, subscribe. I appreciate every single one of you, and have a great rest of your day. All right.